Hey everybody, Anish here, career coach to the fiercely ambitious. Wherever you are, I hope you're in a location where you're getting a little bit of the good breeze, maybe a little good light coming in, all right? Let's talk about what it takes to be seen as a leader by others, specifically employers. And, I want to share arguably the biggest secret I possibly can with you guys on this one. So really listen up. I think it can have a tremendous impact if you're serious about moving upwards right now and making a difference for yourself and the lives of you and your loved ones. But let's just talk for a second about why. I've been a career coach now for well over a decade, and let me tell you something. The biggest piece of misinformation I see is that the most qualified people, the people who are most able to function as a powerful source of change, which is what a leader truly is at his or her best, they're chasing additional experience, additional certifications, when what they should be chasing are opportunities, which they should be closing are opportunities, and where they should be making whatever left is necessary in terms of a belief and capability perspective, they should be doing it right in the field, right now, okay? So why isn't that going on? Why do we feel like we have to keep earning it? Why do we feel like we have to keep waiting for some magical person, right, to give us permission to do it? Right? We've been told this ever since we were kids, I I grew up in a nice, polite, perhaps too polite, Indian family. And, I was told, basically children are meant to be seen and not heard, work hard, work 3 times as hard as anybody else because, you're an outsider, et cetera, et cetera. And I grew up thinking that, but, that's not the case, and that's not the world that we live in anymore. And to think that way is to truly miss out on what life is beckoning you towards, especially if it's something greater, So let's talk now about the secret. It's big. It is completely counterintuitive, but it is something that I've seen way too many times in my life and in the lives of others and those I've coached not to see it, okay? Here it is. Are you ready? When it comes to being seen as a leader, behavior, practically speaking, often counts for way more than experience. How you behave, the actions you take, where you choose to take a conversation, what questions you choose to ask, when you decide to say enough's enough, we need to move into an offer right now, all of these things ultimately add up to way more than that additional certification, that additional degree, those additional years of experience. Especially if you're dialoguing at a high level regularly, there's no contest. But because we get so caught up in thinking, right, this magic bullet theory, right, this idea that, if I just get one more qualification and one thing, then I'm going to get entry. Look, you're going to find resistance and you're going to find true believers everywhere. It doesn't matter how many credentials you have after your name, how many success stories you have, how many referrals you have. There's always going to be some skeptics. Some people, they're never going to come around to you because to accept your way and to accept what you stand for, the change that you stand for, means to truly let go of the ways in which the old way is still rewarding them. As toxic as it is, it rewards them. That's why companies can say all they want about change, but if where they make their money is fundamentally keeping things as they are, they will never change. Not really, okay? So in this way, you got to think about what are the elements of behavior that I can activate, right? Sorry, let me just activate speaking of activate, I just want to make sure my camera is set here because I'm going to be checking my notes here. Okay, so what are the elements of behavior that I can activate, right? So the first thing to think about, what do you stand for? There is no such thing as a leader who stands for nothing. There's no such thing as a leader in general. A leader is not something you ever have to work at or pitch yourself as or worry about protecting. Not if you're doing it right. What you need to be thinking about is what is the mission. The more brutally honest and focused you are about a big pain that needs to be solved, and the more you start the business of solving it by any means necessary, the more others will perceive you to be the leader. And that's what you need to be focused on. So my question to you is, if you work in technology, okay? If you work in technology, I want you to ask yourself, what is, at the best of what I do, what is the fundamental role technology can play in moving things forward, in growing a business, in keeping all people safe, in figuring out a way to have more of an impact? What is that outcome? And start standing for it, start engaging and thinking of yourself as an agent of urgent change for that today. If you are in finance, and you figure out a way to grow businesses through a legitimate client connection, I want you to think about how desperately needed that is right now. And I want you to think about what is the ultimate expression of the change that you make. And I want you to see yourself as an advocate, an emissary for the highest perspective of that mission. That is the most important thing that a leader can do, is stand for an outcome that is greater than him or herself and hold everyone that they speak to, including business context, of course, to that light. What is your light? If you're thinking about skill set, this is the biggest way in which you've been letting down that leadership perspective. All right, let's talk about something else as well. Sorry guys, I'm just belatedly, there it is. There's the handy water. Hold on one sec. So we get clear on the mission, right? We get clear on what we stand for. We get clear on owning the high level of things, right? Not just being okay with improving things, but by standing for a high level change. We're not afraid to brand ourselves that way, right? In things like our LinkedIn profile, we're not afraid to stand for that change. Take away any verbiage of just describing skill sets and responsibilities. That is certainly not helping you in terms of being perceived as a leader. Fine. Next. Another trap. People think that if I haven't done it for 150 people, it doesn't exist. No, think about applications of leadership, not just leadership in the abstract, and then think about stories, anecdotes, expressions, accomplishments in the resume that you can highlight that go to those applications. So leadership by example, right? Here is what I stood for, the big change at this organization. Here were the ripple effects. Here's what we did moving forward. I didn't talk about the number of people that happened. I got deep into describing the example itself. I let you draw your own assertions. And the more certain I am of it, the less you're going to question that anyway, right? And now that means I'll need to have done my homework. I'll need to know all of my accomplishments. I'll need to believe in what I do and really have built up myself psychologically in that way, and you should certainly be doing that if you're serious about making a big leap. But think about leadership by example. Think about leadership by opposition, which means leadership by going right against the grain of this big problem, this big endemic change. You know, that absolutely needs to happen. If you work in HR and you're sickened by HR, how ineffectual they are, how weak they are, what strange corporate mistresses and bedfellows they are, and you want to be something else, and you've seen HR operate at the higher level, then you stand for that. You stand for that mission. You make sure anyone that you talk to knows in a clear way that this is what you want to make happen. You want to make the change of this happen at whatever highest level you can by any means necessary. Okay. Leadership by opposition we talked about, example, and then leadership by creation, highlight the paradigm. And if you're seeing what you stand for being echoed in other industries, in other companies, talk about that, bring that up, right? Do you see what I'm saying? Like use that as an example to say, look, Walmart or Amazon in addressing this challenge is doing it. If it's working at the multi-billion-dollar level, it's going to work for an early stage company like you guys. The concept doesn't change, right? And you serve the outcome above all else, right? You serve your magic process, right? Control the camera angle. Who says half of the trouble that we get into when we are in discussions that involve us as a leader is we give too much away. We keep talking. We keep trying to convince, flip it over to them, right? Ask them questions. Use the company that you're speaking with as the proof of concept, right? Tap into their curiosity to say, hey, don't just take my word for it. Let's talk about X. Let's talk about Y. Do you see the connections here? Stand for that. Stand for detail and stand for making it real in that way, okay? The last thing I want to say, okay, is, I guess two things. Number one, take their pain as a given. The pain that you solve, the more high level it is, the more it's going to be experienced across the board, which means the more you can talk to people across all levels in solving it. But the final thing is just remember you are here. The biggest descriptor of a leader is someone who can make impact happen now, okay? Not theoretically, not a week from now, not a month from now, now. You can make whatever excuses you want. I am holding out the fig leaf to you right now to make this change happen, okay? That is your biggest calling card as a leader. Don't you ever forget that. If you want to go deeper into my world, helloanish.com, HELLOANISH is exactly where you need to go next. Bye, guys. Keep the questions coming.